The wind was hot and dry. Ash floated through the air like soft black snow. Yalin, a human scout from the Frontier Corps, walked slowly over the broken battlefield of planet Zyrith. Fires burned in the distance, painting the sky orange and red. Smoke stung his eyes, and every step crunched under his boots' metal shards. Bones burned debris. His mission was simple: scan for survivors, gather supplies, return before dark. But something about this place felt wrong. It was too quiet. Not even the crows of Zyrith, known to pick at bodies, dared to cry. Then it happened. A low growl echoed from behind a pile of broken metal. Yalin stopped, hand moving to his sidearm. The growl grew louder, animalistic, guttural, angry. He turned slowly, ready to shoot. But what came at him was not an animal. It was her, a tall figure, taller than him by a foot, shot forward like a shadow, covered in dark, cracked armor, her sharp claws extended, her glowing red eyes locked onto him. Blood dripped from her side, her long hair sticking to her face. She looked like death itself, wild, furious, broken. J.L.N. raised his gun. She lunged, and then she fell. Her body crashed to the ground with a heavy thud, kicking up dust. She groaned, then went still. Yalin didn't move at first. His gun stayed aimed. His heart pounded like thunder in his chest. What just happened? Was it a trick? He stepped closer, slowly, carefully. One wrong move, and she could leap up and rip him in half. But as he reached her, he saw the truth. She wasn't playing. A deep gash ran along her side, down to her ribs. Her breathing was fast and shallow. Her armor was cracked, melted in places. One of her claws was bent backward unnaturally. She was bleeding out. Yalin crouched next to her. She was Zalari, a warrior race feared across the galaxy. Stories called them monsters. They attacked without warning, fought without mercy, and never surrendered. And now one lay dying at his feet. He looked around. No backup, no medics. No one to ask what to do. He could walk away. No one would blame him. In fact, they'd probably thank him. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way her fingers twitched, like she was trying to hold on to life. Maybe it was the slight shiver in her breath, fear, not anger. Or maybe Yalin had simply seen too much death. He had treated enemy wounds before. Once a dying Varnathi child had cried in his arms. War made everyone bleed red. Jalen took a breath. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, not expecting her to hear. He pulled out his emergency med kit and started cutting away the armor from her side. Her skin was different, pale purple, rough but warm. He cleaned the wound, injected a coagulant, and wrapped it with clean bandages. She groaned again, barely conscious. Her head turned slightly toward him, her fangs exposed, but her eyes half-lidded held no hate, only pain. He looked into her face. She was young, maybe just past adulthood for her species. Despite the blood and dirt, there was something striking about her. Strong jaw, high cheekbones, strange markings on her forehead. A warrior, no doubt. But not just a killer. Yalin gave her water at first. She didn't move, then dash weakly. Her lips parted, and she drank. His heart skipped. She wasn't just alive. She was accepting help. That night, Yolan dragged her into the ruins of a half-destroyed bunker for shelter. The fires outside crackled like ghosts. Inside, the light of a broken lamp flickered as he watched her sleep. Her chest rising and falling slowly, he kept his weapon nearby, just in case. But deep down, he didn't think she'd attack him. Not anymore. In that moment, something shifted. This wasn't just an enemy anymore. She was a wounded being, far from home, barely alive, and he had chosen to save her. Just as Yalun was drifting off to sleep, he heard movement. He turned sharply. She was awake, her eyes open, glowing in the dark. Their gazes met. She didn't growl. She didn't move. She whispered one word in her language. A translator chip buzzed in his ear. It said, "Why?"
Asterisk.
with his back against the cracked wall of the old bunker, watching her in the dim, flickering light. The alien girl hadn't moved much since he treated her wound. Her breathing was slower now, steady. That was a good sign. Still, he didn't take his eyes off her. She was dangerous. Everyone knew what Zilari were. They weren't just warriors, they were living weapons. Genetically hardened, trained from birth, filled with hatred toward humans. And yet, she had whispered that single word to him. Why? He hadn't answered. He didn't know the answer himself. Maybe because she was dying. Maybe because she looked young. Or maybe because... In that split second, when their eyes met and she didn't bite, he saw something different. Something human. Morning light leaked through the cracks in the ceiling. The fires outside had died down. Silence returned. Jalen stretched his arms carefully. His whole body ached from carrying her weight. He checked her wound. The bandages were soaked in dark blood, but the bleeding had stopped. She needed real care more than he could give. But out here, in this dead zone of war, he was all she had. Suddenly her hand moved. Her clawed fingers twitched, then slowly curled into a fist. Her glowing red eyes opened again sharper. Now more aware. Ilan froze. She stared at him. Her lips moved. Her voice was low, hoarse, human. Nodded slowly. She pushed herself up on one elbow with a wince. Her body shook from the effort. Yalan didn't reach for his weapon, but he didn't look away either. "Why didn't you kill me?" she asked. Her voice was full of confusion. Enough fear. Not anger, just ... confusion. Like she truly couldn't understand the idea. Yalan didn't answer right away. He handed her a small water capsule. She didn't take it. She just looked at it like it might explode. "I don't kill the wounded," he said finally. Her eyes narrowed. "That's weakness." "No," he replied. "That's mercy." A long silence followed. She didn't speak again. But after a while, she took the water and drank. Slowly, awkwardly, her throat still raw. JLE. Could see the thoughts running through her mind. She was calculating, measuring, maybe trying to understand why he was helping her. Or maybe she was wondering how to escape. "I know you're kind," she said after a long pause. "You destroy, you burn, you lie." He looked at her and you. The Zilari didn't exactly show up handing out flowers. She hissed quietly. "We were defending our honor. By bombing cities full of children." Her jaw clenched. They stared at each other, to survivors of a war neither of them had started. Both carrying scars, both exhausted. Finally, she looked away. "I didn't want to come here," she whispered. "They made me." That caught him. "Off guard? What do you mean?" Her breathing grew faster. She pressed her palm to her bandaged side. "I was chosen because of my bloodline. My mother was a high general. My training started before I could speak. He said I had no choice. That to disobey was to dishonor my ancestors." "And what do you want?" Yalan asked gently. She looked back at him, almost startled. "No one ever asked me that." The way she said it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't for sympathy. It was just a fact. Jalon stared at her. Not as an alien, not as an enemy, but as someone broken. "My name is Yalan," he said quietly. "I'm a scout, was sent to search this zone for survivors. Instead, I found you." She hesitated, then responded, "Siva." Her voice trembled as she said it. Maybe she hadn't spoken her name out loud in a long time. Maybe she didn't know if it still belonged to her. "Your wound's deep," he said. "You need more than bandages. My evac's still 2 days out. Can you move?" She shook her head weakly. "Not far." He stood grabbing his pack. "Then we'll stay here. Today, I'll look for clean food and more medical gel." Siva frowned. "You're leaving me alone?" He raised an eyebrow. "You think I'd survive if you attacked in this condition?" She didn't answer. But as he turned toward the door, she said something that made him stop. "You saved me," she said slowly. "But I still don't understand you." "You don't need to," Yolan replied. "Just rest, heal." And then he walked out into the dust and ash. Siva sat in silence after he left. Her chest felt tight, not from the wound, but something deeper, something she didn't recognize. He could have killed her, left her, even tied her up. But he didn't. He saw her pain and chose to help. And for the first time in her life, someone treated her like she mattered. She looked down at the clean bandage, at her wrapped claw, at the water capsule now empty in her hand. What kind of enemy does this? She didn't have the answer, but in her heart something began to soften. Just a little, just enough to feel the difference. Asterisk, asterisk. Yalan returned to the bunker just as the sun dipped below the scorched horizon, casting long shadows over the ruined land. The air was thick with dust, but inside the shelter, a quiet warmth lingered. Siva lay resting, her breathing calm, and even now, though the scars of battle still marked her pale purple skin, the wound on her side was healing. But her eyes held a storm of thoughts Yalan couldn't yet read. For hours he sat watching her, noting every small change. She no longer stared at him with fierce suspicion, nor did she growl at the slightest movement. Instead, there was a strange stillness, a fragile quiet that unsettled him more than any rage could. The fierce warrior he had met was fading, something softer was taking its place at one point. As he cleaned their small campfire, he caught her watching him. Her red eyes, once burning like hot coals, now shimmered with a fragile light. When their gazes met, she quickly looked away, a flicker of confusion crossing her sharp features. Yalan smiled softly. "You're not so angry anymore." Siva's lips twitched, almost forming a smile. "Maybe I'm learning." Days passed. Yolan taught her how to find edible plants among the ruins, how to move quietly through the shadows to avoid dangers, and how to clean wounds properly. She followed his lessons with silent determination, but it was more than survival skills she was absorbing. Her fierce pride, her hardened heart, were beginning to soften under his gentle care. One evening, as they sat beneath a shattered wall, Yalan noticed her mimic his habit of rubbing a small pendant around his neck when nervous. He asked, "Why do you do that?" Siva's eyes flicked to the pendant, then away. "It reminds me that I am not alone." Yalan nodded, understanding. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Her gaze lingered on his face, vulnerability breaking through the warrior mask. "I don't know how to be gentle." "You're doing it now," Yalan said quietly. "Gentleness is not weakness." That night, a soft sound stirred Yalan from sleep. He opened his eyes to see Siva sitting beside him, holding the injured leg of a small, frightened creature she had found. Outside, her hands moved with careful kindness as she tended the animal's wounds. Yalan watched, amazed. The savage warrior had become a healer in the quiet moonlight. Siva met his eyes and whispered, "I want to learn more." Yalan smiled and reached out his hand. "Then we will learn together." Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. The fierce alien girl who had once lunged at him without mercy now leaned on him not just for healing but for hope. And in the quiet moments between danger and survival, a fragile trust blossomed, promising that even the hardest hearts can change when touched by kindness. Yalan woke early that morning to the strange hum of the old medical AI embedded in his pack. It was flickering erratically, a sign it was trying to process data but struggling without full power. He glanced over at Siva, who was already awake, sitting against the bunker wall with her eyes fixed on the small device. Her face was softer now, less guarded, but a shadow still lingered in her gaze. He approached quietly, curious what held her attention so deeply. "What is it?" he asked gently. She didn't answer at once. Instead, she pointed to the medical scanner on his pack, the one he had used to examine her wound earlier. "There is something inside me," she said slowly, her voice low, almost afraid. "Not just the cut. Something deeper. Something alive." Yalan frowned, turning the device over in his hands. The scanner beeped softly, showing data streams he barely understood. But the truth was clear enough. A parasite was embedded near the wound, a creature feeding off her life force, making her pain and rage worse. It was the kind of biological weapon used by the warlords of her people, a way to force fighters to fight harder and suffer longer. Siva's eyes darkened. "They used me," she whispered. "Not just as a soldier, as a weapon." Yalan sat beside her, the weight of her words settling between them. He could see the exhaustion in her face, the long years of fighting, of being controlled by forces far beyond her own will. For the first time, she spoke of hope. Hope to be free. "I want the parasite gone," she said, voice trembling. "But I am afraid. If they find out I seek help, they will kill me." Yolan reached out, resting his hand over hers. "Then we will make sure they don't find out," he promised. "But the cure will only work if you can calm your mind. The parasite feeds on anger and fear. You must fight it from inside." Her breath caught. "Calm my mind. I was trained to fight, to hate. I do not know peace." "Then learn it with me," Yolan said softly. "I will be with you every step." That day passed in silence, except for soft conversations and quiet preparations. Yolan modified his pack, using every piece of scavenged tech to build a makeshift medical station. He cleaned her wound carefully again, applying anti-parasitic gel while instructing her to focus on breathing. On letting go of the rage that had burned in her veins for so long, Siva closed her eyes, fighting memories that surged like storms. The screams of battle, the orders barked by generals, the faces of enemies she never knew but was told to hate. Slowly, Jalen's voice cut through the chaos, steady and calm. "Breathe in, breathe out. Let the anger fall away." Hours later, her body relaxed. The fever that had consumed her began to fade. Her red eyes lost some of their fierce glow, replaced by a fragile gentleness that surprised them both. She opened her eyes and looked at him. "You saved me," she said simply. "Not just from death, but from myself." Yolan smiled, but his heart was heavy. This was only the beginning. The parasite was gone, but the war inside her would take longer to heal, and enemies still lurked in the shadows. Hunting for a warrior who had forgotten her place, Siva reached out, gripping his hand with a strength that spoke of new trust. "I want to live," she said, "not as a weapon, but as a person." Yolan squeezed her hand. "Then we will find that life together." Yolan carefully adjusted the settings on his makeshift medical station. The old AI humming softly as it scanned Siva's healing body. The parasite was gone, but the machine warned him that complete recovery depended on more than just medicine. It said her emotions had to be steady, her mind come otherwise. The parasite might return, or worse. Her body could reject the treatment. Siva lay on the cold floor of the bunker, her eyes closed but her brow furrowed. She was struggling with a battle far deeper than any wound on her skin. The warrior inside her wanted to fight, to rage against the pain and fear. But the healer in Yolan was telling her she must learn peace to survive. He sat beside her and spoke softly. "Your heart cannot be a battlefield anymore. It must be a place of rest." She opened her eyes, glowing faintly but still fierce. "I was raised to hate, to never rest." "Then start now," Yolan urged gently. "I will help you." The days stretched long and difficult. Siva fought herself as much as she fought the memories. Every shadow whispered danger, every sound was a threat. Yet in the quiet moments, she found something new: hope. One afternoon, Yolan was repairing their water filter when Siva approached quietly. "Hey." She held out her hand, offering a small, worn tokenan old emblem of her people, shaped like a claw. "I want you to keep this," she said. "It's all I have left of my past, but I give it to you because I trust you." Yolan took the emblem with respect. "I will guard it for you." The gesture cracked the final wall between them. Began to laugh softly at his jokes, tried new foods he found in the ruins, and even smiled when the sun warmed her face. Her fierce nature was not gone, it was tempered, reshaped, but peace was fragile. One night, distant echoes of war drums rattled the sky. Siva's eyes snapped open, sharp and alert. "They're coming," she whispered. "My people will not forgive betrayal." Yolan grabbed his weapon. "Then we fight. Together." Siva stood beside him, no longer just a wounded alien warrior, but a partner who had chosen a new path. Her hands trembled only slightly as she steadied herself. As the shadows moved closer, Yolan saw not just a fighter, but a soul reborn one, ready to protect the fragile hope they had built. The cold night air wrapped around the ruined bunker like a shroud. but inside, a quiet warmth had taken hold. Siva sat beside the flickering glow of a makeshift fire, her fingers tracing the worn emblem Yalin had given back to Herthaclaw of her people. It was strange, holding a piece of her past so close, while feeling the pull of a new life growing inside her. Her eyes no longer burned with the fierce rage that once defined her. Instead, they held a softness, a gentle light that even she struggled to understand. The warrior who had lunged at Yalin with teeth bared had faded, replaced by someone more fragile, more human. Jalen watched her with a mixture of awe and caution. He saw the change not just in her eyes, but in the way she moved, less tense, more curious. She asked questions about the stars, about Earth, about life beyond war. Every word she spoke was a step away from the past, and toward a future neither of them could yet imagine. One evening, as Yalin repaired a damaged communication device, Siva hesitated before approaching. "Teach me more," she said softly. "Not about fighting, about living." He smiled, surprised but pleased. "Then we begin tomorrow." Days turned into weeks. Siva learned to laugh without fear, to trust without suspicion. She helped Yalin forage for food, repaired equipment with steady hands, and even began to share stories of her childhood memories, of a time before war had claimed her soul. But the past was never far behind. One morning, as the sun painted the sky in hues of gold, a distant ship appeared on the horizon's leak, menacing and unmistakably Zalari. Siva's face hardened. "They have come for me." Yalon stood beside her, steady and unafraid. "We will face them, together." As the ship descended, Siva reached for Jalen's hand, not as a warrior clutching a weapon, but as a woman seeking strength, their fingers intertwined, a silent promise in a world torn by war. The fierce alien had become a gentle kitten. But when danger came, the warrior still roared. The cold wind howled outside the bunker as shadows from the approaching Zalari. Ships stretched across the cracked ground. Inside, Yalin and Siva prepared themselves, their movements calm but purposeful. The time for hiding was over. The time for running had passed. Now they would face what was coming together. Siva looked at Yalin, her red eyes steady but filled with unspoken fear. "If they find me here, they will kill us both," she said quietly. Her voice no longer held the sharp edge of anger, but the soft vulnerability of someone who had lost everything. Yalin reached out and took her hand firmly. "Then we won't let them find you," he replied. "I won't lose you," a hum of the Zalari. Ship grew louder, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Yalin activated the old defense systems salvaged from the ruins, while Siva readied herself not as a weapon of war, but as a protector of their fragile new life. When the Zalari soldiers stormed the bunker, they found two figures standing side by side. Siva's armor was gone, replaced by simple clothes, her claws sheathed, but ready. Jalen's gaze was fierce, unwavering. "You belong to us," one of the soldiers snarled. Siva stepped forward, her voice calm but resolute. "No longer. One choose my own path." A fierce battle erupted, but it was not the desperate fight of a broken soldier. It was the battle of two souls, bound by trust, fighting not for war, but for hope. Jalen shielded Siva as she used her skills not to kill but to disarm. Their enemies faltered, confused by the strength of their unity. In the end, it was not weapons, but their unbreakable bond that drove the soldiers away. As the last echoes of conflict faded, Siva looked at Yalin and smiled, a real, gentle smile that lit her face. "I am no longer the beast in the dust," she whispered. "I am yours now." Yalin pulled her close, feeling the warmth of a future they would build together. The fierce alien girl had become a gentle kitten, healed not just in body, but in heart. Together, they stepped into the rising sun, a new beginning, born from ashes and hope.